Good morning. It's January 25th, 2017. Call to order the Board of Franklin County Commissioners meeting.
Commissioner Howard,
Present.
Vice Chair Renaud,
Present.
Chair Howard, Chair Waymeyer.
Present.
Sorry. Commissioner Oglesby.
Present.
Commissioner Dunn.
Present.
If you'd please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation will be given by Commissioner Oglesby. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bow with me. Our Heavenly Father, we come before you today, God, and we are humbled as we stand before you. God, lead us and guide us to do the people's business today, God. Give us wisdom, give us knowledge, and Father, let everything we do glorify you. And we thank you today for it in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right. Do we have any correspondence or organizational business? All right. Anybody signed up for public comment?
Yes, our first public comment is Norman Woogie.
All right. Before we get started, read the policy. A citizen desiring to speak on an item not on the agenda may do so at this time. Discussion is limited to 5 minutes. The commission will not take action or discuss items at this time. Discussion should be limited to matters of county commission business, and public comments are not permitted in regards to personnel matters or pending legal matters. Items introduced under public comment may become agenda items at a later date. Good morning, Mr. Woogie.
Good morning. My name is Norman Woogie, and I reside at 3790 Pawnee Road. And I'm here to offer suggestions. The asphalt plant, I've been around asphalt plants, road building and so forth, but the things that, to make a place for a asphalt plant, there has to be certain things. One is that it's traffic, and you know, you guys understand all that. That's the planning, and so what I'm here is to suggest a couple places that might be viable, and the traffic and access to materials, and also of being able to get out and to where you need to have the material. What I'm suggesting, I suppose you guys all know Dennis Wallman of Buildex. It's next to an old quarry. There's an access road there where Penny's concrete goes in, and then it goes out on, and the state highways are about 10 inches of concrete, where there wouldn't be any traffic problem because there's also already an access road there. The other place that I'm not necessarily sold on is the one out where the asphalt plant is north of town at this time. There's no housings within any area, and it's already set up for asphalt, and that'd mean 2 asphalt. But in my judgment, it'd be better to have one on this end of town where there's I-35 exit and central in the county. But anyway, I've smoked my piece. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time.
Gene Hurt.
Good morning, Gene.
Good morning. Gene Hurt, 107 Jefferson Street in Pomona, Kansas. When I looked on the internet last night, I saw this one item wasn't there. And I asked Derek this morning, where is it? On the issue of the sheriff contract at Pomona. Because that's why I didn't speak last week, because he suggested that I wait till today. Well, now I see it's not even on there. So evidently, from what he's telling me is that Pomona ain't doing their job. They're not giving the information they need. How in the world can they make a deal and then not tell us, the people in Pomona, and then they don't do what they're supposed to require to give to him. That's wrong, period. And you need to be called out on that, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, that's enough for that one, because I got a lot more to say. Second thing is what Woogie stated about the asphalt plant on 15th Street and I-35. I read in the paper where it had Jeff Morning on the front page of the paper, and he gives a good suggestion. It's in the wrong, you're wanting to put it in the wrong place. He's a banker, he was. I think it's a good idea, put it on Tennessee, where there's several rock quarries. Why not? But then see, the planners voted no, 5-3. Okay, so I guess now it's going to be in your hands to say you want to change that or not. You're making a big mistake if you do. Because there's so many people that are upset over this, it's humongous. So that's what I say on that item. Now, the other item here, it's really important to me. I want to say a few words about Don Hay. You know, there's only one person in here. Roy Dunn's the only commissioner that's in this room or knew him like I did, Don. And I sat there and listened in these chambers where Roy Dunn sat at that time. And there were things back in those days between 2003 and 2011 that was not really stated correctly as far as I was concerned in the paper yesterday. And I got to say a few words about that too, because Don was an exceptional commissioner. Excellent. Probably the best it was in that time period. And I referenced, he referenced Roy did on 4-1 votes. It was always Don Hay was the one vote, opposite what they did. There's a reason, you have no idea, and none of you guys up there sitting, the rest of you, know anything about what he did and what he done at that time period for the 4th District, which Richard now represents the 4th District. Much better than the one that just left. Okay. But that 4-1 vote thing came back. There was one issue, main issue, back then. 4-1 vote. And that was on Jed Hermrich. You know, I'm going to keep bringing this one up because this is where things really changed for this county and for the people, because that's what he was for the people. And he was an advocate for Franklin County, if you read anything about it at all. Because Taylor wasn't, Stallmeyer wasn't, because of what happened. Because Jed had gotten a building permit. He lived on a minimum maintenance road. Don and I went and saw Jed at that time, and we got it all arranged and got it done, took the evidence to Topeka on it, and Bill Otto was our representative. Right? I had all the evidence, and when I showed Bill that, he said, "My God Almighty, they've hurt this man and his wife and his kids." And I said, "That's right." And so I carried a letter back at that time, and I read it before the commissioners at that time, and in the end result of that statement, what he was going to do to this county if they didn't change the way they were doing Jed. You see, Jed had gotten a deal from Lisa Johnson at that time, $30,000 to bring a quarter of a mile of a minimum maintenance up to full maintenance. $30,000. That's right. And that was not correct in Bill's mind, because Jed had almost done all his work on that road. Okay? So, what ended up happening, the commission at that time, with Lisa Johnson, changed the road policy. Quarter of a mile, minimum maintenance, brought to full maintenance, but only cost Jed, only for the rock, $2,500. That road program is still in existence today, and I applaud Don Hay for being that one vote, negative vote, because what the commission was trying to do to Jed and his family at that time.
Down to 1 minute, Gene.
So, Don was an inspiration. He was an advocate for this county and his family. And the funeral yesterday, it was really said good by the minister for who Don was. He was truly one of my best friends and the best commissioner. Thank you.
All right, is that it? Brings us to the consent agenda, which includes approving the minutes for our January 18th meeting and tax change orders in the amount of a positive $795.12. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So
Make the
moved.
motion. Second.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Commissioner Renaud?
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes. The first item of business is to discussion of using transient guest tax, TGT funds, to help incentivize a potential hotel development project. Do you know, we have presenters? Yeah, come on down.
I won't make Derek hold that or anything. You've seen a hotel before, but I guess this is what we're proposing to build. Hopefully on the Taylor land out on the hard corner there next to Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, but possibly over on the Meharry land over on East 23rd if the city can't work out the details with the new road. That's the proposed project.
Okay.
If I could, some pretty pictures and a little bit of information that you didn't get on the original.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
You're fine.
I apologize. Mike Works, Lincoln, Nebraska. Very good. I'm here, obviously, that we're proposing to build a Holiday Inn Express, 85 rooms, 80 to 85 rooms. Excuse me. Obviously, there's a lot of things that are going into this project. We've been working with the city for 6 months, probably, maybe longer on the project. When we came to town, we had a thought that we wanted to put it over there behind the Comfort Inn on the Meharry land. The city came back to us and suggested that perhaps the better location was on this Taylor plot of land, which is kind of the gateway to Ottawa, as we know. And they've been trying to do something there for some time, it sounds like, but haven't been able to get anything done because of the road issue. And there's just no access to it. You've got to ride in, ride out of the Taylor land now, but it's not something that it sounds like Department of Transportation is going to allow anyone to keep. So you got to do a road back past there and work it out with the other landowners, et cetera. So there's a lot of extra cost that goes into doing a project on this land. And obviously we're working with the city on that right now, and we've committed at this point to saying, hey, we will take our time with you and give you the time you need to get through that process, because we agree with you that cleaning up that corner and doing something there makes the most sense for the city and most sense for the project going forward. So that's where we'd like to do it. Having said that, if nothing works out with that land and nothing works out with that access, we will switch it back over and do it on the Meharry land. We believe in the project, believe in the city of Ottawa, and it's someplace we want to be with the project. Having said that, no surprise here, construction costs being what they are, there is a gap between what we can build this thing for and the value of it once we get it done. It doesn't mean that it doesn't cash flow to a degree, but to get the type of return that we hope to get, and those are numbers that have been shared with the city, wasn't asked for here, but so I don't have those, and that's really not the conversation today. But basically, all we're trying to do is come up with that gap financing from the city and from the county to make up for that shortage. And so that's why we're here today. I know that different counties have done different things on transient guest tax in Kansas. Abilene, I know, has like kind of a set policy, 1.75% that they'll give back. I have a friend who did a hotel in Hiawatha, Kansas. They gave him the full 6% back for a period of time. We didn't need the full 6% to use for that gap, and so we're proposing to use half of it, 3% of the 6% for a period of 10 years. It was suggested to us that running our numbers, that gets us to a point where we can say at the end of the day that we aren't underwater once we build the project. It's that simple. We can build this project. It's going to cost us, especially with the extra cost and everything with the land, it's going to cost us someplace in the range of $115,000 a key to get it completed. We can sell this thing at the end of the day for $85,000 to $90,000 a key. And so that's the gap that we're trying to work out between city financing and financing with the county. And so that's why I'm here today.
And this gap on this site that you talk about, that's created because of remediation costs and the road, is that correct?
That's part of it.
And the additional
Abs-
infrastructure needed for that particular site?
Absolutely. So I could go and put it on the Meharry land, and that portion of it goes away. But in reality, TIF is taking care of the extra costs of the road, acquisition of the road, extra dirt work that has to be done out there, the extra cost of the land out there, which is more expensive. So TIF's taking care of the majority of that. What TIF doesn't take care of at all is just the cost of building the structure, or the parking lot, or anything that has to do with the building itself, which just building that building puts you in a negative position, especially in a small town like this.
And is it correct, this road wouldn't just serve this hotel potentially? There's other pad sites or uses that could go back
Absolutely.
in there?
And the city has said, even if we took a look at putting it on the ABK land, which is that old gas station that's empty now, and so we looked at doing that. It doesn't fit very well, and there's other issues with that land, but we did that. And what they said is, even if we were to put it there, they're still going to require someone to put that road in. And so the city is adamant that they want that road because it services everything out there and would make all of that developable.
And future uses that would be back in there?
Absolutely. And in fact, if you look on my last page, which is a very preliminary site plan, it shows where the hotel would go, that we would have a pad site out front, and that we would have, we came in with our initial position was that we like working in small towns. We've done a lot of work in small towns, especially recently in Nebraska, for the most part. And we have a deal where we're putting hotel and then we're putting an apartment complex with it, because we can share some of the same maintenance people. People have trouble building apartment complexes in small towns because the costs just it doesn't work. But if we can share some of those expenses and don't have to build a clubhouse because we can use our facilities at the hotel, it works for an apartment too. So that's not phase one. I want to be clear on that. That's phase two, but we will be preparing the land to do that in the future. So if we do the Taylor land, that would be the layout. We would be clearing all the land, doing all the drainage, doing all the dirt work, so that it would be ready to do all of those different things.
Would you potentially be asking for additional incentives for the other phase?
No. My understanding is, and my attorney Matt Goff's here, and I know he's working with Tyler with the city and the county. The TIF would be on the entire project area right now. And so we'd be using all of that now.
Okay.
Up front to get the dirt work and everything else done.
Commissioner Waymire, if I could interject, and Mr. Morris is doing a fine job. We also have James Oltman with FCDC here, as well as Tyler Ellsworth with Kutak Rock, both of which are here and willing to speak. And many of your questions could perhaps be better answered by either of
You
them.
bet.
So feel free to
Jump in anytime.
All right.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of benefits to the city, and it's kind of outlined in the original proposal I sent in. I mean, obviously, there's increased employment. We're cleaning up a corner that needs to be cleaned up in Ottawa, and I think future development is clearly going to come. I know the city's already been contacted about if we come, that there's something else that might be coming with it. We've also been in contact with people that are looking. I think it will definitely develop there once something happens and that road goes in. The road can't go in. There's no money from city or county to put that road in if a developer doesn't do it. And so I think that this project is as good as anything that's going to create enough TIF to do that.
All right.
There's a couple other things too. I think that there was some concern that was expressed to me from James Oltman that, where's this business coming from? Are you stealing it from existing hotels, or are you bringing it in new? I did put a short two-page paper there together, which kind of explains it, but let me give you a short version of the story. Basically, this is a Holiday Inn Express. There is no IHG property from Olathe down to Emporia. Those are the two locations, and so there's nothing else on the interstate in between. Holiday Inn Express, Marriott, Hilton, those are your big three brands. The other brands kind of fall in a step below, and where this property would be coming in is at a level higher than the properties that are here in town now. You have very nice properties in town now. I stayed at one of them last night. It was very nice. But they're very good with the location at the level that they're at. This would be a higher rated hotel. It appeals to a group of people that are not being served right now. When we came and sat down with the city group, everybody in the city pretty much, when we sat down first, they expressed the opinion that the university wasn't being taken care of, the hospital wasn't being taken care of. When they knew that people from those locations were going to Kansas City, were going to Emporia to stay, or going to Lawrence to stay, instead of staying here, just because those facilities weren't here. Same with your two big manufacturing distribution plants that they had been expressed to by them that was going on as well. So there's also a short case study in there. We have built in York, Nebraska. So we sat down and kind of looked at where have we built that we can say, hey, we know what the numbers were before, we know what the numbers are now. Very similar situation with a 10-year-old Hampton Inn in town in York, Nebraska, smaller town, 8,000 people on an interstate location. Kind of a hopping off point in between Lincoln, which is 30 minutes away, much like Olathe. What you'll see in those numbers is that, yes, absolutely. Is there some takeaway from the other hotels? No question. In fact, that Hampton Inn, I know the numbers today because I'm a broker and I'm trying to sell it for the gentleman, is 7% down. In 2 years after the other one opened, it's 7% down. But that's not a significant decrease. Whereas all the other revenue has been generated from new business. And the new business you're missing out on is all of those people that are Holiday Inn Express card-carrying members, which is a large percentage of hotel users. So it kind of explains it in that. I won't bore you with all the details, but I guess what I'm saying is that we have specific instances where we can show you that absolutely some gets taken from the existing hotels, but the rates in town go up and new business is being generated. And a large majority of what's coming in is new business.
Do you want to bring anybody else up? I know you have a few other people here, maybe to speak.
James, you want to come and say something?
I can come say something.
That would be great.
James Oltman, Director of the Franklin County Development Council. Like Mike said, we've been, FCDC and the City of Ottawa have been working with him for really about 6 months now, since mid to late this summer, about this project. We've been into the weeds with a lot of different issues on the different sites throughout the City of Ottawa, and have kind of narrowed down on this one. One thing that hasn't been brought up yet that was discussed when it was brought up about the possibility of using transient guest tax funds is, yes, the Holiday Inn Express would fill a certain need within the community, bringing in those hotel customers that aren't stopping in Ottawa currently, that are either bypassing to go on to Emporia or go up to Olathe, depending on which way they're staying. And, the city and the county is definitely losing out on a, certain chunk of income because of that. Not only are you talking the transient guest tax funds, but you're also talking the sales tax, when they stay here. Your restaurant business, your grocery store business, Walmart business, things of those natures that customers do, or places customers shop at when they're in town. With that being said, we felt that there was still an opportunity where we wanted to use this opportunity to address another void in the community, which is a lack of meeting space. One of the things that we've expressed, and I'm sure you all know as well too, that when you're talking, meeting space in the range of 50 people, 70 people, even as much as 25 people, there's very limited options within the City of Ottawa and Franklin County to do those kind of things. Whether businesses want to have board retreats. I mean, I know our own organization has to, kind of cycle around to different places within the community just to hold our quarterly board meetings themselves. The hospital obviously has nice conference room facilities, but, they're booked a good majority of the time. Outside of that, then all of a sudden, you're looking at city commission chambers, county commission chambers. And so one thing that we proposed to Mike was if there was a way that they could include a meeting space that would be available to the public, that might be a way to use these type of funds to help incentivize the project a little bit. Just to be clear, we're not talking, conference convention center, something that's going to drastically, change the footprint of the hotel or anything like that. We're talking, 12 to 1,500 feet of conference space that can hold 50 to 75 people. Things for instance, people that want to have family reunions or birthday parties, or like I said, businesses in town that may be looking for space to have board meetings, focus groups, things of that nature. We felt if we could fill that need within the community too, then, it could help this overall project. And so that is one thing that we brought to Mike. Mike, after hearing, what we were talking about, agreed that is something that could definitely be worked into the footprint of the hotel if these funds were made available to help the project. And so that was just one thing also I wanted to touch on about not only are we just talking about a hotel coming to town, we're also talking about filling another void with some of this meeting space. And so, I can go on all day about the economic benefits for the community with a project like this, not only just the tax revenue that comes in because of the building itself, the increased transient gas tax funds that are going to come in. Keep in mind that even though they're requesting to take a portion of this is not money that's going to be allocated out of the, in essence, current transient gas tax funds that are coming in. This is money that's going to be generated by this property. And so, yes, there's going to be a little bit probably taken away from some of the other hotels, but what they're bringing in overall is going to more than make up for that. And so that's just one thing you want to consider. Yes, we're very cognizant that there are other entities in town that have a stake in this, that may be for or against this project. And believe me, I mean, over the course of the last 6 months, we've talked about all those issues with city staff, with FCD board members, and so they're all things that we're very much aware of. At the end of the day, though, my job is to be able to present to you projects that help move this county forward, that help develop this county out, and help us grow to the point that we want to grow. And looking at the big picture, in my professional opinion, this is absolutely one of those projects that could be a catalyst for future growth within the community. It could potentially be a project that helps, jumpstart the construction along 59 south of 35. Back in May, we had the presentation of the master plan for the new industrial park out there, and the master plan calls for commercial and mixed use development all up and down 59 to Kingman Road. And so, development breeds development. When people see things are happening, they're more apt to jump in as well too. Like Mike alluded to earlier, I've also been in touch with another entity that could potentially be looking at coming to this particular site if the hotel project were to be able to be completed. So I can answer any questions that you guys may have for me.
We had a meeting a while back, and one question I had was what kind of incentives were gave to other motels that came into the area, and you said you would look into that.
Mm-hmm.
Was any of the transient guest tax used at that time?
From my understanding, the last hotel that was built would have been the Comfort Inn, and that was back in 2000, so approximately 17 years ago. And from the records that I received from the county, it does not look like any transient guest tax has been paid out in the past. Honestly, that's not surprising, just because this is a tool that I've even seen in the economic development industry become more of a factor, more so in the last 5 to 10 years than it was 20 years ago. Like Mike said, he's probably got some examples in there of what other communities have done. I've been involved with other communities that have done similar things. The thing about it is there's no standard. I mean, it really truly is up to the county to decide, is this the right tool to use to help a project? There's numerous tools out there. I mean, you have TIF funding, you have transient guest tax funding. There's things as far as tax abatements, all these different tools that can. It's a matter of finding the right combination of tools to do a project. Sometimes they make sense, sometimes they don't, but that's really going to be up for you guys to decide. It's not uncommon to see this used. In fact, it's actually at this point pretty common for these type of projects, for any entity that collects, whether it's called transient guest tax or bed tax, or each state kind of has a different term for it. But this is a tool that is that the county can use, and so.
I have a couple of questions. The square footage seems rather, it's a 30 by 40 room or 40 by 40 or something like that, and you said 50 to 75 people. Is there a rent fee to use that room, or what kind of fees does a hotel have a policy on those for those people?
Generally speaking, yeah, there'd be some sort of rental fee normally.
Right.
Just for cleanup, water,
Sure.
drinks, whatever that might be.
And you don't have an on-site food service, so therefore bringing in outside food is not going to be something you're going to regulate or charge people?
No, for a facility of that size, we wouldn't regulate.
Right.
We could bring in what, we wouldn't limit it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a conference center.
And then what would happen, if I understand this, we're talking about the transient guest tax just on this hotel?
Correct.
All right. And this is shooting maybe clear out of the sky, but what if that transient guest tax changes up or down, either one? Are we staying at the 3% regardless, or are we 50% of it regardless if it goes up or down? That would be a question I would have. It's a 10-year period.
Right.
No,
And I don't know what would happen.
We budgeted the numbers. The reason we only came with 3% is because we budgeted the numbers to get to where we needed to be. And we'd be fine if we could leave it at the 3%. I have a hard time believing that any county's ever going to drop their occupation
Right.
tax lower. If it were to go higher, we'd be happy to stay at the 3% for the period of time.
Right. And we're talking just on the tax on the
This
new
hotel.
property
Right.
Right.
that it generates.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Tyler here, do you have anything you want to share, I guess, what interest you might have as far as?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Tyler Ellsworth with the law firm of Kutak Rock, the county's bond counsel. I don't have a whole lot to add other than what's presented. I have been working with the city over the last couple of months, not in great detail, but sort of as questions have arisen. I've worked with Wendy on some of the TIF proceedings, which are underway for, I think, the site that's kind of the top priority right now. I think really I just sort of wanted to come this morning to answer any questions and hear the presentation, and then if this is something that the commission decides they want to proceed with, then I'm here to help put that in place. And that probably would look like figuring out the time frame for the city incentives and sort of making sure that the county and the city were proceeding on the same time frame so that one didn't get ahead of the other. I think it makes sense to sort of have everything considered, the whole package considered at once. And if that moved forward, then the commission would probably look at a resolution at some point, sort of making a finding that providing the requested incentive was going to benefit sort of the hotel and lodging industry, tourism industry here locally, and agreeing to provide that requested incentive, and then we would look at putting a development agreement of some sort in place to outline some of these details about if there are questions about how the room is used, how it's made available to the public. I don't want to tie the developer's hands too tightly because he needs flexibility to run his business, but I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page going into this about how things are used. So that's all that I have to add.
All right. Do you have anybody else with you who wants to present before we go to a public comment? And then,
I don't think so. Any other questions?
and then we can probably come back, after we hear from the public, come back for commissioner questions and all that.
No, I don't think so. I guess, well, the timeline originally when we sat down 6 months ago was we'd have plans to the city, have the land, it's all the land's under contract, I don't say that, but we'd be closing on the land here early spring, have plans done and into the city by February 1st, and so we could go out to subs right after that. That obviously is not happening because of the city's troubles with the land and getting the acquisition of the road. So at this point, it's a 14-month process from the time we get an okay to start the plans. And so as soon as we can get that okay to start, we would love to start doing that. Having said that, opening up a hotel in the winter is a horrible idea, as the other hoteliers here could tell you about too. So it's much better if we open up in the first quarter or second quarter of a year. So we'd probably try to time it out that way. If that means we can't open up until first of 19, that's probably what we would do. If it takes that long to get through the city process.
Well, I think we'll take public comment and then have you back up, and then we can all ask questions, right, and go from there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our first one is Patricia Clausen. If you could come up and state your address, because you didn't place it on our form, so I need your address.
My name is Patricia Clausen, 515 West 2nd Street here in Ottawa. I have been listening to the comments that were made. No guest tax was given benefits for the other hotels in town. I think it's discrimination. If you're going to give 3% off of this, what are you doing for the other hotels? None of the hotels here in town are busy. They're only busy for a short time throughout the year. There's PIP things on that you can see. You're talking about the benefits of the companies that's going to build it. They won't be local, only a few. Nobody will work on the Comfort Inn because it's tall. You have 4-story building you're going to build. Sunny could not build a 4-story building because of the airport, but now it's okay to build a 4-story building. The main thing on your agenda is this meeting room. You don't care if the hotel is built or not. It's the meeting room that is the issue. Using the guest tax money for this purpose, I took it upon myself to call the state to find out what is legal and what's not. You have an attorney who's supposed to be understanding these laws. When I spoke to the state, they're having a meeting today to determine what you can and cannot do. And they will be sending you a letter on that as to what you can do. The wages, no motel is going to pay $10 to $18 an hour in this town. It's never taken place. I spoke with Mr. Works himself. I said, I will be the first one in line for a job if they're paying $60,000 a year. Let's see. Motels, you have 5 in this town. The Days Inn has changed hands 4 or 5 times. Why is that? It couldn't make ends meet. You've got the Econo Lodge, who's changed hands 3 times. I worked at it for 20 years. It couldn't make ends meet. You've got the Holiday Inn Express that was here, a motel that now you want to build. It's changed names. It couldn't make it here. You've got the Super 8, which Sonny and his company has bought. We have people numerous times every day who comes in and asks if it's open. Why is that? Because it's not busy. There's nobody there. You've got the Knights Inn, a small hotel. How many of these hotels are going to close by bringing in another hotel? How is that benefiting the town? You need to bring things into Ottawa for guests to do. You have a meeting room. The people are going to come to that meeting. You're going to have space for them. What are they going to do once they get out of that meeting? Like I told Mr. Works, are they going to go up into the room of the hotel and watch TV? Or are they going to have to drive to Kansas City to go to functions? Because there's nothing in this town for them to do late in the evening.
You're under a minute.
Well, that's basically all I've got to say. I'm sure the hotel owners will have something to say also. But I think it's discrimination to be using this tax. You're not giving that 3% off to any of these other hotels. Are you planning to do that? Are we going to collect 3% guest tax?
Good speech.
Sunny Patel.
Good morning, Council. Good morning.
Hey, Sonny?
Good.
Can I
You
get
know-
your address, Sonny?
2335 South Oak, Ottawa, Kansas.
Thank you.
I developed this property back in '99 at the company, and used to be a best franchise can available. It was a Hampton Inn. I tried to get some tax credit, some stuff that time. Nobody, so we don't have city, we don't have any kind of stuff like that. But long story short, right now, you know, who don't like new development? I love it, you know. If was a room for Holiday Express, I could change my Comfort Inn to Holiday Express year ago. I calculate everything, you know. I'm gonna leave you some paper I have. I've been here 17 years. Occupancies never went up. It just kind of steady. You know, last year we were really busy because of the power plant and all that stuff. But overall, I've been here 17 years. I haven't seen hotel industry more than 53% across the board in a town. Okay, mine is highest, so it's about 50 on the ballpark. Now bringing another building, I think it's a good news, but how many other we're gonna close, or how many other business gonna affect by that? You know, I'm gonna be a direct hit, which is I already built some equity, it's gonna zero out quite a bit. If I wanna sell my property now in this market, I'll probably lose over $500,000 or more. So, you know, you guys gotta decide. I know I'd love to have a new business in town, but it gotta be some different type. I think we got enough hotel. There's a couple more hotel building on a Gardner just down the road coming up. And I have a lot of developer. I can build hotel, no big deal, okay? But I don't see any sense of building hotel in this town. You know, down the road, you gonna struggle. Now, if you wanna struggle, yeah, go for it. Or they can even, whatever money they're investing, I think they can buy both my property and build beautiful convention center right behind that building. They still will save about 20-30%. That's all I had to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. We'll bring back up the presenter, and sure we have questions from the commissioners.
If I could, real quickly, just answer a couple of those comments.
You bet.
Talking to Patricia last night, I would agree that one of the side benefits that I probably wasn't aware of is that bringing in the new hotel will increase not only employment, but also increase the wages of the existing hotels and the employees at those existing hotels. Because those wages that are listed in there, I went back and looked after talking to her. We don't have a manager at any of our hotels, a GM, that is under $50,000 a year. We don't hire any housekeepers at under $10 an hour. So to say that those numbers aren't correct is just, it wouldn't be true. I mean, that's what we see everywhere, and if Ottawa sounds like it is at a lower level, I think this would help bring up all the employees' rates. So that's number one. Number two, I would completely agree that Ottawa does need more, and I'm sure you would too. It would need more restaurants, it needs more entertainment type of things. I hope that the developing on that corner as opposed to behind the Comfort helps to stimulate all of that and bring extra things to that corner, specifically probably restaurants. Thank you.
All right. So I think, Derek, do you have a question, or any of the commissioners? I know you mentioned.
I do. I have a question for Mike and then also for James. You made a request, and you've gotten into what that request is. One half of the TGT for 10 years now. I view that as an offer, and I generally would counsel my board and everything that we do to make a counter offer. Having said that, and that is if they're interested at all.
Right.
Having said that, I'm interested to know whether or not you would be amenable to a counter offer on this, of something less than what you have asked for.
Well,
I'm not
right.
asking to negotiate
Yeah.
here, I'm just asking.
Generally, I wouldn't try to negotiate against myself, but I guess the answer is I could have come in and asked for 6%. I know it's been given elsewhere where it's all been given because we're creating it all. We're not asking for anything out of your pocket. We're creating it. I only asked for 3 because that's what we needed to get to a return that actually made sense. And so I would generally like to say the 3%. Thank you.
But are we not changing the building? Are we doing a 300 square foot conference room
The
as opposed to a
prototype,
12?
you're right, I apologize.
I want to know whether or not there is an impact on the change of the diagram of the, possibly anyway, that you're saying that.
Absolutely. The prototype hotel, Holiday Inn Express, new prototype, is a 300 square foot room. It's like a boardroom. You know, you can fit 10 people around a table, is what you do. What we're offering, based on conversations with James and other people in the city, was that the city could use a larger facility. Obviously not a convention center, but a larger facility. So that's what we put into this. Obviously, all of those CGT funds aren't going to go to that conference center. We need some of it to make up the difference in what we're missing from just the construction of the building. However, if 3% were granted, that's what we're saying we're absolutely willing to do, is that we'll go to 4 or 5 bays and go to that 12 to 1,500 square feet. Does that answer your question?
Which would, with table and chairs at 1,500, would seat about 100 people. With just chairs, a little over 200 people.
That'd be tight.
Well,
Oh,
that's
you're right,
the
if they just did,
depending on the exits,
you're right, okay,
but that's the IFC occupant load factor.
okay.
Well, there is a standard for room occupancy out
Correct.
there. I'm sure that
Yeah.
somebody can give you an exact number of what that is.
I just pretty much did. But
Okay,
that's-
no, I think you're exactly right.
I figured it.
We don't see that straight line classroom seating very often, so, yeah, normally tables and chairs.
But that's still not a, like you said, that's not a conference room that's gonna bring in a great number of people. Wouldn't fill a hotel necessarily.
No.
For a convention, many conventions maybe, or many conferences maybe of some type. Is that a tool, James, that you think could be used in our community to draw additional revenue and conferences and things like that? That's what I kind of want because I'm particularly interested in concerned when using tax dollars towards another entity to benefit them. In my way of looking, that's a way of looking at making winners and losers, and I'm concerned about doing that. So.
It definitely is something that could be used as a tool for the county to generate, more traffic within the community from outside of Franklin County. Obviously there are, businesses up in Lawrence, maybe as far down as Garnett, that are looking for this type of space. And, maybe it's just a board retreat. Just to give you an example, 2 years ago when FCDC did their board retreat, this was back before I was here, they went down to, I think it was actually Iola, to have their board retreat at a building down there, just because it had everything that they needed. And so we have, another good example is we have some businesses, even within Franklin County, in other communities within Franklin County, that come to our office to use our boardroom. They come and spend a day or two in Ottawa, whether it be leadership training or that type of thing. And so I feel that that there is a possibility, that there is an opportunity for that. I mean, I can't sit here today and say, we can guarantee that, we'll be able to attract, X number of board retreats a year or X number of leadership trainings a year, type of thing. But it is filling a void that we don't have currently, so.
I think you mentioned you received some interest from other investors if this infrastructure is put in, this area could develop?
Correct,
In
yeah.
other ways?
FCDC, myself, have been in contact with another company. It is a restaurant-type business. I've expressed to them what we're working on here, and they've expressed back to me that this is something that they are really interested in possibly pursuing if if the hotel and this project were to be able to be completed on the proposed site that they're talking about. And so, it's one of those perfect examples that this could and most likely will breed other development, not only on that specific corner, but we're hoping up and down the 59 corridor there south. And so one other thing I just want to add from an FCDC perspective is, we understand that this is a sensitive subject. We understand that there are other businesses involved that may not have had this opportunity in years past, and we are sensitive of that. I mean, we understand that. At the same time, this is something that is not out of the normal and is pretty standard in communities across really the country. I would pose it to you a different way, that if all of a sudden we're not, and nobody likes incentives. I mean, even in my business, incentives for any type of project, whether we're talking hotel, restaurant, retail, industrial, manufacturing, warehouse, any type of incentive package that you may put together is what I would consider a necessary evil. Nobody wants to do it, but they have to do it to be competitive, because if you don't do it, the next community down the road will, and you'll lose out. And so we understand that, and the only thing that I would say is this is not, this is one conversation that we're having today, but you will be having similar conversations with other industries as the industrial park develops out. We won't be talking transient guest tax funds at that point. It'll be other things like tax abatements, and it could be cash incentives. I mean, it could be whatever they request, but I just want you to prepare yourself that this won't be the only conversation. I mean, this specific conversation in this context, yes, but when you start talking about incentivizing projects overall, this is something that we would hope is more of a frequent conversation, because it means we're having interest from businesses that want to come in and develop in our community. So whichever way you go, I'd just be cognizant of that in the future and prepare yourself that these conversations will most likely become more frequent.
Will I don't know if either of you can answer this, the TIF alone, would that cover the additional costs of the infrastructure, remediation, things that are needed for this site?
Generally speaking, yes.
Over time, eventually would?
Yes. Yeah, over the 20 years it would. And what we talked about before was, of course, that the TIF doesn't cover any of the construction itself. All it's doing is getting a pad-ready site for us is really what it's doing, which we already have over on the Meharry land if we did that, over on the other side on 23rd Street. So TIF's helpful, but it certainly doesn't get you all the way. And that's whether or not we do the meeting room. The meeting room, you asked would there be a charge? That charge is very minimal. It's a loss leader. I mean, we're not making any money. We'd much rather have hotel rooms than a meeting room.
Unless it will bring in business for people who will stay overnight. That's the only advantage.
That's certainly the hope to some degree. And when we first sat down with the city,
Sure.
to follow up on what James said, their comment was that they've had situations where they've had a county or a city group that wanted to come to the area. They couldn't support them, or they wanted to have it inside of a hotel or adjacent to a hotel or something. And that was why it was brought up originally.
So if the TIF will cover the cost, the additional cost for this site, what's the gap you talk about for needing this abatement for this site particular?
Sorry, and if I didn't explain that very well, I apologize. Just the cost of construction where they are today on a property like this is we're going to be in that, take away all the extra stuff on the land and just getting it prepared. We're still going to be in the $105,000 to $108,000 range per key to build the thing. We couldn't sell that hotel when we got done for more than, say, $90,000 a key, and that's a rough estimate based on, I'm a hotel broker.
Sure.
And I apologize, I'm a hotel broker, so with a group out of Kansas City. So we do a lot of that sort of thing, and in Kansas, generally speaking, and we've sold other expresses recently, you're going to sell them for someplace between $70,000 and $85,000 a key. Hopefully a brand new one before it opens would get a little bit more, so I'm going to say 90 as kind of a top figure that we need to get back to, but that's the gap we're talking about. And if you say no, and all we get is TIF, and it's just enough to do that, honestly, we're not going to build. It doesn't make sense for us to build because we're in a hole. Yeah.
Not there, or not even at the other site, or?
The other site's a possibility. It's just the land cost is less. I mean, there's other factors that go into it too. It's, certainly TIF helps, but TIF just pays you back over 20 years. I've still got to upfront all that money for all the infrastructure, and the road's $300,000 plus, and that doesn't even include the acquisition of the land. I mean, so there's a lot of costs that go in up front. Sure, it's great to get it back in 20 years, but 20 years.
On
And who
value.
knows what I'm doing in 20 years, right?
Value of money.
If we looked at 3% for 5 years, where would that put you?
To be fair, I'd have to go run the numbers. I haven't run those numbers. I mean, obviously, I can tell you what the number is. How important is the meeting room? Because if I do that, the meeting room and all the AV and everything that goes into a bigger facility like that, I'm half of that money at least is gone. And then it isn't very helpful. I mean, it's still helpful. I don't want to say it's not helpful. That'd be unfair, but it's not as helpful.
And this question could be for either of you. James, you made a comment about the effect that this would potentially have on the transient guest tax collection. And you indicated that while it could take away occupants from the existing hotels, that what this particular project would be bringing in would more than make up for that. My question is there any way that that can be quantified for my board? Because and I know so much of this can't be quantified, but one of my concerns is I wish they had a lot more of that in front of them. Like, this is what we typically see. It might take 10% away from them. However, we anticipate this many visitors, which would generate this. Like, I feel like if we had more factual data and didn't have to rely simply on assurances, that might be very helpful for them.
Well, and I'd like to add to that, we already give TGT money to, to provide our tourism services, and I think the board probably wants to make sure that we're still being able to meet that requirement to provide our tourism services, and that the level of funding that's coming into the TGT account is not being decreased by the loss of these other hotels enough that we don't have, as a county, have enough money to fund those tourism services that are trying to drive people, those very people, to the community that are going to stay in the hotel that we're trying to build. So
Fair enough. Maybe I can, and I think we'd be happy to, in the next week, get you all of that information into a more specific spreadsheet so you can see numbers. But just quick numbers, I mean, this project alone will generate about $120,000 a year in TGT, between $100,000 and $120,000 a year.
At 3% or
At 6%.
At 6.
So at 3%, you're still collecting 50 to
If you
60,000.
figured if it dropped existing by 10%.
But let's be
then-
clear on that. You're only going to drop the existing hotels that are direct competitors in that same range, and that really only includes the Comfort Inn. So this shouldn't have any effect on the other hotels in town, because those folks staying at the Econo Lodge or folks staying at the Super 8 aren't staying at the Holiday Inn Express anyway.
The devil's advocate, and I understand. A low end of this isn't, you're not the same customer. But if we dropped everybody 10%, that would be 16.
You'd have to answer that. I don't know.
We collect roughly 180, 160 a year in transient guest tax. So it's you're half of what number did you put out?
Let's say 100. Let's take the low end of that,
100. So
100,000.
50 is what your hotel alone would net. I mean, even if it was a really conservative drop, estimate for what it could drop, you would still be netting roughly 45.
And, just to touch on what Mike just said, one thing to consider too, that this, as he presented, this is going to be a higher end hotel. The rates are going to be a little higher than anything that we have in the county currently. So the obviously the 6% is going to be based off of what the room rates are. And so, if you're looking at, a room rate at one hotel currently in town at $70 a night, but this project might be $95 a night, you're going to generally, even if you take somebody from the $70 a night room and put them in a $95 a night room, that alone is going to, even directly moving it from one hotel to the other is going to generate a little bit more income. And so as far as the numbers, like Mike said, I know, it's something we can put together. I know we talked about it at one of the meetings, and typical occupancy rate for Holiday Inn Express is 60%.
Up and down 35%. I mean, up and down 35, you'd be between 65 and 70%.
And then you factor an average of 2.5 guests per room.
I'd have to get you those specific numbers. But,
So,
yeah.
and once
But
again,
you're right. I mean, I'm sorry.
Oh,
to
go
interrupt,
ahead.
but you're right. I mean, the bottom line to your transient guest tax fund is you're still a positive $35,000 to $50,000 a year.
Using really conservative numbers.
Really
It-
conservative numbers, yes.
And then once again, not including the other additional tax revenue that's gonna come in from sales tax at the restaurants and the other, and that's, you know, I mean, there's not a great way to quantify that, but those are things that you do want to take into consideration, you know, people stopping, get their gas, get, you know, supplies for their trip and whatnot.
I'm just not real sold on how important the conference room actually is. I mean, I just don't know how much that's necessary, and how much that would be used.
And that's fair, and Rick, I'd be much more interested in talking about your 5-year plan instead of 10-year plan if we were building the normal prototype and leaving it at 300. I mean, I've got a lot of upfront expenses that I'm gonna get back, including, this would just be one more thing, but it's, yeah, the whole project's getting expensive anyway, so if you were to say to me, we can operate this thing just fine with a 300-room thing. This is not something that I necessarily want in the hotel, is a 1,200 to 1,500 square foot thing that I then have to take care of. It'd be a lot easier to operate this thing with 300 square feet, so.
Let me touch on that too. And Mike's absolutely correct. This was something that FCDC and the City of Ottawa brought to Mike, you know, when we started talking through this project and through the possible incentives. You know, we said that in essence, we were going to need more than just the hotel to be able to justify, you know, all the different tools that we were looking at. And, you know, we presented it as, this is something that we have a void right now. And whether you agree or whether you fully realize, it is something that we do have a void. I mean, we can say that, you know, the hospital has conference room that can be used. Neosho County has a room that'll hold, you know, 75 people, and you know, Ottawa University has a room that can be rented, and those are, yes, open to the public, but first and foremost, they are used by those entities. And so you're always going to be at the mercy of the scheduling of those entities, because they're going to use them for themselves. This would be a completely public, you know, you don't have to worry about, you know, if the hospital has leadership training or Neosho County has a student event that they're using the room for, and those type of things, because, you know, getting up above 20 to 25 people, you are, when you, I mean, believe me, I have to call around and figure out where can we hold board meetings once a quarter. And once again, just like the city commission chambers and the county commission chambers, this is something that's available, but it's always going to be at the discretion of what's already scheduled here for county use or for city use. And so, yes, I mean, we might just have to agree to disagree on that, but I do feel that there is a need and there is a void, and it can be filled by this. And so, this was something that we brought to him to you know, talk about.
Well, I know we're not going to bring this to a motion and vote on this today, but I guess where I'm not sure about the transient guest tax money on this, but if I was, this is just my opinion where I'm kind of standing on this. I feel that a 3% at around 5 years would be more than fair from the county as an incentive. There's also, I know the City of Ottawa you're working with, they have the TIF districts, and they have other incentives available to them. I think if they felt that the conference room was that important, that maybe some more incentives could be picked up from that side of it for that situation. I think us a 3% at 5 years, in my opinion, is more than fair coming from our side of it. That's where I stand on that
We
part.
can vote on it today. We haven't committed to it.
I know
mean,
it can be, but I thought it was.
If somebody wants to make a motion, that's certainly their prerogative.
I want to
Anybody
see,
else?
I personally want to see more numbers that have been offered to.
That's great.
To justify this. You know, just based off of what I'm seeing, it would be difficult to make a decision in that favor today, and I want to see numbers.
And I appreciate that, and to add on to it, you all have talked a lot about economic development, and we all know what we've got going down on 59 with the industrial park. I don't think it's hard to fathom at all that this could lead to additional economic development. However, I think due diligence just dictates that the board have all of the information at their disposal, because they are the keepers of the transient guest tax. And so I would ask that to the extent that it can be quantified, the potential effect that this would have, whether that be good or bad on TGT collections, that info be provided to them, so
Richard, is there anything else that you would like to see besides?
Well, if there's, I'd like to know if, what kind of effect this is going to have based on, you have this report from York, where you were in Nebraska, I presume.
Right.
And the effect that, similar effects that happen in that community to other motels as well. I mean, I'm afraid of the benefit of gaining a motel, hotel, and putting another out of business. That.
Fair enough. That's not our goal. I completely agree.
And so I would like to see that kind of information personally. And so if we could get that, at least if I could see that, I can look at numbers. It's hard to put somebody else's dream into my mind and put it all together. But when I can see it on paper, it's a different story.
Okay, that makes sense. And just to be clear, I've been on the other side of this as well. We've had hotels in towns, and other people have built new hotels in towns as well. And Marysville, Kansas is a good example recently. So,
and with that, I'd like to make a motion to table it until we can get that information, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
that's great.
Roy, what's on your mind? What things you'd like to see?
I have something to say.
I'm sorry, we're past public comment, so.
Well, I think this discussion happened 20 or 30 years ago when Walmart wanted to come to town. And we all know the effect of Walmart coming to town. We didn't have any more grocery stores. They all went out of business. Hardware stores consolidated. So there is the effect of a new enterprise coming to town that's in competition with what exists in the town. And I don't think anyone today wants to get rid of Walmart, but and also, I don't think anybody wanted to get rid of the old ways to do a business too. So it's kind of a toss-up in that respect. Are we looking at another Walmart coming to town and losing some of the hotels, or everybody thrives? And that's one of my concerns.
One last thing I would like to say on this, and this is just something I caution the board on, and this is the same thing I would say to the city or to any other community that would be looking at this type of thing, is from an economic development standpoint, and that's where I'm coming from today. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't be speaking on behalf of something if I thought it was going to be a detriment to the community. And so I really caution everybody as looking at competition as a negative or a bad thing, because it's not always that. Sometimes you have to have healthy competition to be able to continue to keep progressing as a community and progressing, as far as development and everything like that goes. And so, yes, sometimes businesses come in and other ones go out of business, and that's an unfortunate side effect. But like, you just said, Roy, I mean, looking at now, I don't think anybody would say we don't want Walmart here anymore because, business X, Y, or Z went out of business because of them. So, competition's not always bad. I mean, obviously it presents the challenge that everybody that's competing against them has to raise their game a little bit, and that's good for the community as well too. So
I think it's a good comment. I mean, I think we need to understand we're setting a precedent, both when it's positive and not, but we're also setting the precedent that if anybody wants to reinvest or invest in their community, we're going to support them. So I believe we would also extend this to an existing business who wants to make a significant reinvestment in their facility as well. I mean, just to be fair, so at least some kind of incentive. Mr. Patel, I think it appears we're going to be talking about this again next week. From what I understand, we're going to table this, ask for a little more information, and then you're certainly welcome to come and be a part of that conversation. But for today, where we're at, I believe, is probably going to look for a motion to table. You have something, Derek?
We have a motion on the,
Oh, we do. I'm sorry. I didn't realize there was a motion.
Rick made a motion to table this
We need
item.
a second then.
Second.
Commissioner Renaud?
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Chair Waymire?
Yes.
Thank
All
you for
right.
your time.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it, guys. Yes.
Same for your time. That brings us to staff reports. I'm going to come back to Derek. Let's see, we don't have sheriff or. Do you have anything?
No, I don't.
Alan's back there? Where's he at?
No.
Alan, right?
Ally.
Janet?
Oh, Ally, sorry.
Yes.
Ally, do you have anything? Okay.
Roy?
I was gonna ask Janet a question
Go ahead.
about the Southeast Kansas,
Oh, yes, good point. I sent you guys all an email yesterday about the Southeast Kansas meeting. That's a meeting we have twice a year. It's open to, I sent out the list of everyone that it's open to this time, and it kind of changes just from county to county who's hosting it. So Labette County be hosting it this time for us. I'm planning to attend. I know Jim Hague is already planning to attend. Their special group that they've invited this time is the Emergency Management / Health Department. They're going to have some kind of joint meeting with the two of those. Of course, it's always open to the commissioners. Generally you guys kind of get to hear about their community and different projects they're doing in their communities. So a lot of times it's a nice opportunity to see what other communities are doing and get ideas and feedback from our peers. So generally Sue McKay goes. Jody Edwards, our incoming treasurer, will be attending. Also, so there are quite a number of us going already. Commissioner Oglesby said that he would like to go and just see what it's all about. So that's going to be March 16th, and I'm hoping to send in
March when?
16th.
16th?
I'm hoping to send in our RSVP not this Friday, but the next Friday. So it gives you a week or so to think about it and let me know whether you'd like to attend. Maybe reach out to those commissioners in that county and see what they're planning if you're kind of on the fence. But it's always a good opportunity just to network with our peers and find out what's going on. So just let me know.
All right. Derek, did you have any staff comments? Staff reports?
And it's been spoken about a couple times, just wanted to touch on the planning commission's hearing regarding the asphalt plant. Several of you were at that and witnessed it. Generally, I thought it went fairly well. Had a lot of public comment, both for and against. I will commend the people that were doing that. They were very respectful. Thought the planning commission did a pretty good job. They did vote against a motion to approve it on that site. And so where we're at currently with that is there's a 14-day statutory objection period whereby anyone who disagrees can file what's called a protest position or protest petition. We've seen that before in the motocross matter out of Tennessee, and so we're currently in that 14-day period, which was this coming back before the board, I believe, at the earliest next week. So that's where that is. And I don't believe I have anything yet.
All right. Commissioners' comments, board reports.
Well, I attended the Conservation Annual Meeting last Thursday along with Commissioner Oglesby and Commissioner Renaud. And a couple awards were given at that, and had a nice crowd as usual. And then on Saturday, the same three of us attended the chamber banquet, and it was a very long night. They had a lot of stuff going, lasted till after 9, and a lot of awards were given, and a lot of they had a lot of items to auction off and different things, and it was a very good meal and a good meeting, and that's the only two things I've been to.
Covered
Randy? Okay.
Good job.
Rick?
He did cover a lot of the same events, but I did go yesterday and congratulate the Ottawa Fire Department on their 150th anniversary of service to the city of Ottawa, which I think is remarkable service. So,
I did go to Don Hayes' funeral yesterday and just appreciate my time on the board with Don and appreciate Gene's comments about Don and who he was and that sort of thing. Also, I appreciate the hotelers being here today and the guest tax folks being here today to listen to the comments about this new thing.
Good.
I will add that I did not make it to the funeral, but I did attend Mr. Hayes' visitation the night before.
All right. Well, we have a executive session ahead of us. I imagine a little break before we go into that probably wouldn't be out of line. So
You still need 45 minutes?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. How about a motion to go into executive session for matter of attorney-client privilege for 45 minutes with the board and the counselor administrator, and we'd go in at 9:50?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We're out of executive session at 10:50. No action was taken, no decisions made. With that, I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned, 10:50.